All right, good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. We are currently live. I'm just going to give a couple minutes to have some people kind of come into the chat, see how many people we can get online here watching, and everything is set up and ready to go to do our photography critiques this morning. I want to thank everybody who dropped photos into our photography tips and tricks Facebook group. I believe there was like 130 plus comments and probably at least 100 photos as well. So we're just going to give people a couple minutes. I can see there are 3 or 4 people watching currently, so we'll just give people a couple minutes and then we'll get this critique rolling. I know for some people it's a little bit early in the morning, especially if you are in the US and you're on the West Coast, and I'm sure it's a little bit early for people or late for some people on the other side of the world because we do have a global Facebook group. So again, thank you everyone for showing up if you're just popping in now, and we will start this critique very shortly. So here's what we're going to do. I will kind of get everything set up so we are ready to roll as soon as we can. Make sure I'm not getting any feedback here. Also, remember, we have the chat going on in the right-hand side of the screen. So if you guys are interested in leaving any comments on the photos, feel free to leave your own critique on the photo. I just ask that you be respectful to people's photos. Don't say that someone's photo is stupid or anything like that. Just be constructive. Give them a critique that they can improve from, because we're all here to get better. We're all here to learn and become better photographers. So let's kind of help build people up and not tear people down. So let's move on over to our screen right here. All right, so this is our little Facebook photography group. Here's our group so everyone can see. And this is the thread we started, our first live photo critique. This is super exciting. And I'm going to go through here. I'm going to look at everyone's photos to the best of my ability and pretty much spend as much time here as we need to go through and critique everyone's photos. So huge response here. Thank you so much for everyone being a part of this. And I'm really excited to go through here and start critiquing photos. Again, feel free to hop in the chat. I will check the chat as quickly as I can and give your guys' feedback and your thoughts on the photos as well. So our first photograph here in the chat, there's no sort of order or anything like that. I'm just going to go through all of the comments again to the best of my ability. This first photograph here of this little alleyway is from Humberto Bibiano. I apologize if I didn't pronounce your name right. That's the best I can do. So thank you, Humberto, for trusting me with your photo critique. And here's kind of how this is going to work. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about 3 main things. We're going to talk about, actually, let me pull myself up here. I have a little picture-in-picture camera. There we go. So now you guys can see me down in the bottom of the screen as well as I talk. So we can see multiple things going on here, make this as interactive as possible. So thank you again, Humberto, for submitting your photograph. I really enjoy it. This is really cool. I love wide angle images. I love the angle you chose. The way I'm going to kind of critique our photos here today is I'm going to talk about what you did right. I think it's important to start off what the photographer did right and how the photographer was successful in the image. And then we'll talk about things that I think you could have done better, and then how we can improve in the future. So kind of 3 main things: what we did right, what we can improve upon, and then going forward in the future, how can we make our images better and how can we learn? So again, Humberto, thank you for sharing your photo with us. What we're going to do is we're going to look at this image. I really enjoy your photograph of this alley. I love that you captured someone here right in the middle walking down this little alley or brick road. I love the depth of field effect. It kind of is blurry around the edges and gets sharper towards the middle. And what you really have going on for you, which is really great, is these leading lines going straight from the top to the bottom and from the right to the center and the left to the center. I hope you guys can see my mouse here on the screen. So we have these lines coming down here, all leading towards the person. You can see all of these leading lines are focusing our attention towards this person right here. So I would consider this person or this person in the background, maybe just people walking in general, is your subject. So everything is leading towards the subject and kind of culminating towards the subject, which I think is really great. That is a great use of composition. And compositionally, I love this image. You did a very good job. And I think black and white really works well. You also posted the original color image, and I would like to show that to people if you're okay with that. This is your original. Let's see. So what you said was, thanks for your feedback. This is crouching on the ground, and you had to flip your camera upside down. No tripod, just handheld. Oh, and you asked your wife to walk in front of the camera. So I'm assuming this is your wife down here. Let me know if I'm wrong. And yeah, this is the original photo. So thank you so much for sharing that backstory on the image. I always love knowing the story behind the photographs. This image looks great. Again, composition is great. So I think you did really well, and I love the black and white. I think the yellow colors from the streetlights were a bit distracting, so I think you did a really good job making this black and white. I think that's fantastic. And that's a little pro tip that I like to use all the time. If an image has very distracting colors, maybe there's some bright reds, some bright greens, some neon colors that are taking away from the subject, you can always choose to go black and white, and you did that very well here, and I think you made the right choice. So what can we improve on in this image? So the first thing I think of is this is a very symmetrical image. We have the right hand side over here is very symmetrical with the left hand side, and what I would like to see is if you took a step over to the right just a little bit and you moved over to the right, hopefully that's showing up. Everything is kind of opposite on cameras when you're live streaming. So if you were to move over just a couple inches to your right, you would be absolutely dead center in this little alleyway. I'm not sure if that was possible. Again, I'm not the photographer, so there may have been something in your way that didn't allow you to be dead center, but in the future, this is such a compositionally strong image that being in the dead center of the alleyway, I think would have improved it just a little bit, because I'm OCD about those kind of things. I like everything to be absolutely perfect. And again, your composition is so strong and looks so good. I think moving over just an inch or two would have looked absolutely awesome. And again, your image is awesome. You did a great job. Keep taking images like this. If you can have your wife be your subject, even if she's walking away from the camera, that makes this image so much more interesting than if this was just a boring empty alleyway. It adds some life to this alleyway, and it tells the story of someone walking down the alley kind of by themselves with a jacket on, just kind of at night strolling down the alley. So great job. I really love this image. Thank you so much for submitting. I hope that critique was helpful, and let's go ahead and let's move on to our second image here. So give me just a second just to check in, see if we have any comments here. No comments yet. Again, guys, let me know, and gals. I'm gonna turn the live chat on here so I can see all your comments. Let me know if you have any sort of critiques. Just type them in the chat. Hopefully the chat is popping up for you guys, and hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm going to check audio real quick. So every now and then I'll go and I'll take a little pause just to check the audio and make sure we're doing okay. You guys can hear and see me. All right, there we go. I think everyone can hear me fine. Thank you so much for the comments. And again, if you have any critiques on the photos, just drop them down in our little chat box and share with the photographers. So let's go ahead, let's move on to our next image. And I will scroll through these comments and make sure I can see everyone's. Here we go. This next photo is from Harmony. Thank you so much, Harmony, for sharing your photo. Let's go ahead and let's transition to this photo. Now this looks like it is a lake or a very large pond with, we got a little duck swimming there in the pond. This looks great. Let's see, let's start off with what I enjoy and what I like about this image. All right, sorry, I got a little distracted with a text message. Here we go. So Harmony, thank you so much for sharing your photo. I think you got a couple photos in here that we'll take a look at. We'll look at as many as we can. I see 3 right now, so we'll again start with your photo of the duck in the lake. And the first thing I think of with this image, and my recommendation, I'll kind of sidetrack a little bit. My recommendation is photography is all about what you make your viewer feel. What do you feel when you guys see this lake? I feel peaceful. It's very calm. The water is very calm. It's not a stormy lake. It's not a stormy ocean. There are not huge waves toppling over. There are not boats capsizing. There's not thunder. There's not lightning. It's a very calm lake. It's just very peaceful. And I love that this duck is just kind of sitting there. It's nice and peaceful. There are these little ripples, and I think those ripples add so much to this image. And again, that's one of those things where it's, you captured a great moment of those ripples surrounding this duck, and that really leads my attention towards this duck. So I think you did a great job capturing the right moment. If the ripples, if the ripples in the water were any larger, they would not have framed this duck so perfectly. So I think that is one of the things you did right. You caught a good moment. You caught a great moment. And that's what photography is about. It's about catching moments. It's about making your viewer feel a certain way. And that's the difference, in my opinion, between photography and a snapshot. I take snapshots on my cell phone all the time, every day, constantly. They're not very meaningful. Now, when I actually take the time to compose an image and get everything lined up properly and capture a moment, that's what I consider a photograph. So in my mind, if you hear the term snapshot, that's less of a planned image. It's just, I went to capture something real quick. Wasn't a lot of thought into it. Doesn't mean there wasn't a lot of effort into it, but not as much thought as a photograph. So sometimes I'll throw those terms out, a photograph and a snapshot. And I think you did a good job with the moment, taking this beyond just a snapshot. So let's talk about some of the other parts of this image that I like. I like the reflection. I like seeing this little bit of land up here at the top, the opposite side of the lake, a little bit of land here at the bottom, and this tree over here. Everything kind of frames the duck, and it brings your attention towards the center of the photograph, towards this duck. Now, what are some things that I think you could have done better? Well, let's take a look here. There's a couple ways you could have done this photograph. Now again, I'm not sure what you're shooting with. I presume this may have been either an iPhone or a wide angle lens, because this is a very wide composition. And I think this may have looked good in black and white. There's not a ton of color going on in this image from what I can see on Facebook. There's a little bit of blue, kind of some like light bluish grays. There's some brown over here. And sometimes these wintry photos, this photo has a very cool feel to it because it's a little bit blue. Sometimes these photos would benefit from being in black and white. So maybe give this a try in black and white. Now I'm going to do something here that we didn't do with our last image. I'm going to right click. I'm going to copy this image, and I'm going to show you guys in Photoshop here. We'll make a new composition. And here is, oh, I got to transition over to Photoshop for you guys. All right, so here is the image over in Photoshop. I hope you are able to see that. All right, so we're here in Photoshop. I just pasted this image in Photoshop. Hopefully that works out for you guys and you can still see what's going on. What we're going to do here is in Photoshop, I would like to show you guys a couple techniques that I would do to make this image a little bit better or stronger compositionally. So one of the first things I talked about was making this image black and white. Now, if you have Photoshop, super easy. Command, Shift, and then U, or Control Shift U if you're on a PC. So we just made that very easily black and white, or we can go up to, let's see, Image, Adjustments, black and white. So a couple options for doing this. And again, I think that just leads our eye directly towards that duck. And we can make adjustments here, but I'm going to say that's okay. And that looks pretty good. Again, up to you whether you want to go color or black and white. Now in the future, I'm assuming the subject is the duck. The duck is the moment. What would be nice is if maybe we could focus a little more on the duck. If you potentially had a zoom lens or you were able to zoom in a little more on the duck. Let's see. Something kind of like this. Again, that's up to you how you would like to edit this photograph. I like the little bit of the trees. I like the reflections of the mountain. I would just like to be brought into the scene a little bit more. I think you did a good job of showing the environment. I would take a second photo after you've captured your wide photo. Try taking a secondary photo that's a little more zoomed in on the duck so that you can kind of tell a story. You can show the overall environment, overall scene, and then we can really zoom in there on the duck. So I think you did a good job capturing a moment, and that's a key thing that you did here was moment. So let's go ahead. I will close out this image, and let's go back to, where is it? Here we go. Let's go back to our Facebook group. And actually, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to check our comments again, see if anybody left comments in our live stream again. Feel free, you guys, if you're watching, to drop a comment in here and just kind of let me know what you think about things. Let me know what you think about these images, and we'll get to the next image here in just a second. Okay. All right. It's now 9:20 on my side, Central Time. Been streaming about 20 minutes so far. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to someone else's images, and then Harmony, we will come back to some of your other photos here. And actually, let's just do, you have two photos here that I can see. Let's do this one really quick. Hopefully everyone can see. We'll transition back to the photos. And this looks like it could potentially be the same lake. It may be the same day. And we have this nice, I believe it's like a willow tree, potentially, like a weeping willow in the winter. And then we see 1, 2, 3 ducks here. And what I think you did well here, I like your composition. I like this road is on the rule of thirds line right here. This willow tree here is on another third. And these ducks and this pond are another third. So I think you're using rule of thirds well. What I'd like to see in this image is I want to see these ducks. I want to see closer to the ducks. Pick a subject, which I think is very important, and show me the subject a little bit more. Is the subject the tree? Is the subject the ducks? Is the subject the pond? There are some distracting elements like this road back here. I'm not sure the road necessarily serves a purpose in this composition, and same thing with the car. I'm just kind of watching back there, seeing what's happening with the car, and I think I'm going to assume that your intention was to show off these ducks. So I would get closer to the ducks. Like I said, in your first image, take your wide shot, capture that moment just in case you go to get a closer shot and the duck flies away, then you've lost the moment altogether. Capture that wide shot. You have your basic shot, and then go ahead and step a little bit closer and see if you can get a secondary shot and make your composition a little tighter, a little stronger, a little better in the future. But great job at capturing these photographs, and we will go ahead and let's take a look at all of our 138 comments. And I actually did this backwards. Here we go. So again, thank you, Humberto, for submitting your images. Thank you, Harmony, for your photographs. And we have Maddie is next. So we're going to bring up this image. And there were some comments. See some of the replies talking about candid shots. Okay, so we're going to bring up this image. Let's make sure you guys can still see what we're looking at here. There we go. This image is full screen. So Maddie, let's talk a little bit about your photograph. This, I think, is a fantastic moment. We talked about moments before, and it's all about capturing that optimal point in time. Everything we capture is a moment. So we have to kind of take it to that next level as photographers. Anyone can pull out their camera and I can go ahead and I just took a picture. I just captured a moment. Was it a good moment? Not really. It wasn't really anything interesting. But what you did here, Maddie, is you took it to the next level. You captured a good moment. You captured a great moment in this photograph. And that trumps everything else. Moments are what photography is about. Your image can be a little bit blurry. Your image can be a little bit overexposed. But if you capture that moment, that's what matters. Because if you capture a technically perfect image, but it's a boring moment, it's a boring photo. If you capture a good moment, and maybe it's just a little bit blurry, maybe it's a little out of focus, you still captured a great moment. So that's what I think you did great here. You did it fantastic. I absolutely love that the boy here is blowing these little dandelion seeds away. And that is fantastic. There's a little blur on the dandelion seeds, which gives a sense of motion. It kind of drags your eye. As the viewer, my eye starts out right here on the right-hand side of the image, and it kind of zips around to the dandelion, and I can kind of see what he's doing. And then these dandelion seeds are blowing off, and this last one's blurry, and it looks like it's being caught off in the wind and blowing away. And I think that's fantastic. Again, props to capturing a fantastic moment. You did a great job. So that's what you did good. Let's talk about maybe some things we can improve with this photograph. I think the colors are a little bit too saturated, in my opinion. They're very strong, and you can see what's called clipping and banding here going on in the image. And part of that is the Facebook upload. But part of that is cranking up the colors a little bit too high. And I think this image could have looked good in black and white. It could have also looked good in color. It does look great in color. But I think the saturation is a little bit much. I'm going to copy this image. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to bring it over into Photoshop right now. So I'll show you guys in Photoshop what this looks like. Transition over here. You should be able to see what I'm looking at in Photoshop. And the saturation is just a little bit much right now. So what I would recommend doing is maybe potentially black and white looks okay. It just kind of has that classic, timeless feel to it. I personally love black and white. There's a lot of times where I'm going to recommend you guys go black and white, but that's ultimately up to you. That is my subjective opinion about your photograph. To me, black and white always looks good, especially when you have a lot of colors going on. And there are definitely a lot of colors going on in this scene. And I think they're a little bit saturated. So what if we go and we turn the saturation down just a tiny bit? Maybe right there. What do you guys think about that? Feel free to let me know if you guys have a different opinion than what I have. My opinion is not 100% right. It's just based on my experience as a photographer and editor, what I would do. So I would bring down the saturation just a tiny bit. Or what I think happened is I think you pulled up the saturation when you were editing, and I probably would have just kind of left it where it was at because you have such a great moment. Your composition is great. The way you framed the child here, I'm not sure if it's your son or someone else's, but you just have a great moment here. So going forward, I would say maybe lean towards editing things a little more naturally, maybe give black and white a try, but keep going with this. What you're doing is awesome. So I think you are on the right track. And keep up the great work is basically my advice for you in the future. Keep looking for those little moments. Not every moment is going to be a big moment. Some things are quiet moments, and this is a quiet moment, and that's what I recommend photographers, especially if you're starting to learn photography and you're just learning to capture moments. Look for the quiet moments, the things that some people would just walk right by. You, as a photographer, your job is to capture these quiet moments, and that's what makes photographers different from everyone else in the world who just has a camera in your pocket or a phone camera in your pocket. You have a device that captures moments, big moments, small moments, but they're moments that the average person would just walk by. And for us as photographers, it's our job and it's kind of our mission to capture these moments and share them with the world. And Maddie, I think you did a great job capturing a moment. Thank you for sharing this moment with us. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to close this image. Good job again. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Let's go ahead. Let's take a look at our next image here. Let me go back over to our page. Yeah, absolutely agree. Mary or Marie Farmer, thank you so much for your comment. I would actually take some of the brightness down a little bit as well. I'm not sure if your image was captured in RAW, but if you capture it in RAW, you can take down the brightness just a touch. It does kind of have that light, airy feel to it, which I like. But yeah, definitely bring that saturation down a tiny bit, bring the brightness down just a touch, and see if you can maybe recover those highlights up in the sky. And actually, I'll bring that back into Photoshop and see if we can do that again. All right, let me bring you guys back here into Photoshop. All right, so we're back here with the image again in Photoshop. We'll take it the next step here. Let's open this. Sorry, let me go over to the Photoshop window. And there's a couple ways you can do this. We can go and we can filter, and then it is camera raw. Again, I'm just editing a JPEG image. Hopefully, I guess the camera raw is not showing up for you guys. So let me go ahead and let me do this just directly in Photoshop. Close out camera raw so you can see what I'm doing here. It's just not showing up in the live stream. Okay, so what I can do is I can apply an image adjustment and adjust the exposure a little bit, and we can turn down the exposure slightly. Now again, if I was working with your original image or your raw image, there's a little more data to work with, and it will look better when I start turning down the exposure. Right now, it's just kind of making the whole image look a little bit yucky as I turn this down and I edit a JPEG that's been highly compressed on Facebook. But you can take your own image, your own raw image, and you can turn down that brightness, maybe just a touch. It looks like it may have been captured a little bit bright. You can see his hair is very bright, the background is very bright, but you're also shooting on the opposite side of your light source. You can see over here the light is on the right side of his face. If you were in his position, it's on his right hand side, or the left hand side if you were the viewer, and the shadow area is over here. So I think you were trying to expose for your subject, which is very important, and capture the subject and make sure the subject is nice and bright. So again, I think you did a good job. Thank you for that critique and adding that comment in there. I think that's fantastic. Let's go ahead, let's go back to our Facebook page and let's take a look at another image. Oh, the pond image, my mistake. Thank you so much for your critique though. Both images were a tiny bit bright. I apologize, I'm lagging here a little bit. I have to go back and check with the Facebook chat. But thank you so much for sharing that. Let's go ahead and go back to our Facebook page, and let's take a look at our next image. And this image is from Deanna. I guess it would help if I turned on our Facebook page again. Here we go. And I love dogs, and I really like what you did here is you took it from being a photograph and you made a composition here with this little frame. I really like what you did there, and I think that looks great, especially on social media. If you were to post this on Instagram, you're adding just that little extra something. So let's talk about what you did right with this image. Let me get comfortable again here. Let me grab a sip of my coffee because it is nice and early this morning for me, and I need my coffee to survive, as I'm sure some of you people do as well. So again, thank you to everyone for joining this live stream. If you're here listening, if you have comments, absolutely feel free to drop those comments down below in our group chat down there and share what you think. I am happy to include your comments. I'll happily take your suggestions. If you want to see an image darker or lighter, if you want to see an image in black and white, I'll go ahead and make those little corrections and we'll see how they look. Again, we're all here to get better. I'm here to get better as well. I learn things from you guys. I've been, just a little background on me. We'll go into that later. Maybe we'll take a little halftime break in about 20-30 minutes, and then we'll talk about me. I'll give you kind of my credentials, my background, so you can learn a little bit about me. Maybe I'll show you guys some of my images. How about that? How about at the end, I'll pop up a couple of my most recent images, and I'll let you guys critique my images. I think that would be a lot of fun. I've been critiquing your images for a little bit, and then if you want to stick around to the end, I'll let you know when that's going to happen. You guys can be as rough as you want on my photographs. And let's go ahead. Let's take a look at Deanna's photograph of this little puppy here. First of all, puppies are cute. If you take a picture of a puppy, it's almost like cheating because you're automatically almost going to have a great photo. So first of all, let's go ahead. Let's take a look at, I would maybe assume this is your puppy. Absolutely cute. I have 2 dogs of my own, and I love dogs. I'm an absolute dog person. This is super cute. I love the blue eyes. I love that you kept the color. I think the color is very important in this image. I love the pink from the collar, and what you did is you created this border around here that's also pink. Again, for social media, that works really well. If you were to print this out, that works really well. What you're doing is you're highlighting the pink in the nose and the pink in the collar by making that pink border, and I think that is a really strong editing technique to do. Now, if you wanted to, I think this image would look good in black and white as well, but I think you intentionally left it in color, so I will not make this image black and white. Excuse me. Let's see. So compositionally, the dog is in the lower third of the image. What you did is you centered the face. Good job on that. And you used shallow depth of field to really bring our focus here towards the face of the dog. So great job there. Our focus is right down here. Again, I hope you guys can see my mouse in the live stream. Great job. Fantastic job. This kind of blurs off into oblivion in the background, kind of like you guys can hopefully see with my live stream. I have a very blurry background over here and a very shallow depth of field, so you're just focusing on me, and my guitar's back here, which might be a little bit hard to see, but I have guitar hanging here, I have a neon sign, I have some plants and some speakers in my current little YouTube office studio. It's all blurred out in the background, so you're not distracted from the subject, me. So you did a great job isolating your subject, and it's very clear to me, the second I look at this image, I know exactly what your subject is. You did a great job isolating. Now, I'd be very curious. I kind of want to see more images from this photo shoot. What other moments did you capture? Did you have potentially a ball? That's very difficult to capture. Go ahead, throw the ball for your pup. It's usually easier to have someone else do it, and see if you can capture that exact moment of they're jumping up and the ball is kind of coming in and they're just about to grab the ball, or they just grab the ball. That would be my challenge for you in the future. See if we can get the next moment. Like, what is the next big moment? This is kind of a quiet moment. What is the next big moment that we can try and capture? And maybe try capturing some action. It's not going to be easy. I promise you that. I've captured a lot of action, a lot of sports. Not going to be easy at all, but that would be my recommendation to grow in the future. And my second critique, just again to make you better, there is a very strong vignette. I would back it off just a little bit, maybe pull it back just a tiny bit, because just it's very strong. And yes, vignettes will pull your viewer's eye towards the center of the image, but I think this one is just a tiny bit strong, and we very clearly know who the subject is. The subject is automatically very cute. You did a great job of capturing a sharp subject in focus, and it's centered. So the subject to me is already very clear, so I don't think you need as strong of a vignette. I think vignettes are great. I love using them, but maybe tone it down just a tiny bit in the future. So thank you so much, Deanna, for sharing the photo of your pup. Let's go ahead, let's go back, and let's check our Facebook group here. Let's see what other images we have. Our next image is from Jason Hicks. Thank you so much for sharing your photograph. I am going to check things out here. Give me just a second. I'm going to take a little pause. I'm going to sip some coffee, and I will catch up on comments and all that good stuff. So just 2 seconds here, and I will be right back. All right, so I'm going to transition over to Jason's image, and let's see. I'm not sure if Jason is here or not. If you guys are here in the live critique, feel free to drop comments. Feel free to give me the backstory on your photograph, and I will try to get to it as soon as possible. The only thing I'm still working out, and we will try and do some of these critiques in the future as well, and I'll kind of work on this setup a little bit so it can be the most optimized that we can make it. Right now, I have to go back to a different screen to see your comments. So if I were to go over to my YouTube live stream app, I wouldn't be able to see the photo, and you guys aren't worried about what's going on behind the scenes in YouTube. So I want to focus for you guys on the image, and then typically at the end of the image, I'll see what your guys' comments are, and I will take those into account. So let's see, Jason, here we go. Let's take a look at this image. I like square compositions. I'm a fan. Square compositions were around a long time before Instagram. A lot of people call square compositions like this, just having your image cropped exactly to a square, a lot of people will call that the Instagram crop. And square compositions were around a long time before Instagram. Even the old Polaroids that we used to have, well, I still have. I have a whole shelf here of Polaroids. You guys can see in some of my other videos. But Polaroids have that square crop as well, and I absolutely love that. You can make a very strong composition with a square crop, especially if you're shooting with a square crop in mind. So you're thinking about that composition as you're shooting the photograph and thinking, I'm going to crop this into a square later. You can make it a very strong composition. And again, having that square crop will automatically make people think about your composition. So if you have a bad composition, it'll make it very apparent, and if you have a good composition, it will amplify that composition. So I think that's what you did here, Jason, is you amplified that composition by cropping into a square. we have some very strong things happening. And we have 2 or 3 potential subjects here. Your subject would either be this cactus, potentially this little rock formation in the background. This looks like it could be potentially like Arizona, maybe New Mexico. Feel free to let me know if you're here, Jason, where this is from. I won't go creeping on your Facebook page to see where you're from. That's none of my business. So I like this. I like the square crop. I like that you kept this in color. I may try it and see black and white what this looks like. So let's go ahead. Let's copy this image. And what I'm going to do is I will move it over to Photoshop here in just a second. I'm going to open Photoshop, make a new composition. We'll drop our cactus image here into Photoshop. And let me transition you guys over to Photoshop here. So we are in Photoshop right now. And again, if you guys are just joining me, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you guys. Give me just a second here. Give me just a second to open some other files. And sorry, I have my computer freezing a little bit. Hopefully you can see Photoshop here. And I'm just waiting for things to load. So just give me just a second here. All right, here we go. So we are in Photoshop. We have Jason's image open. You guys can see the same thing that I'm seeing. So this photo is almost a square. It's not quite a square. I would like to see what this image would look like as a perfect square. So I'm going to take this image, I'm going to crop it a little bit, hit enter on the keyboard or return, and that right there is a perfect square, and I think that makes your composition just a little bit stronger. Again, square compositions I think are a lot of fun, and they can either make or break your composition. And in this case, you have a very simple composition. You have the rock formation and you have this really cool looking cactus. Love cactus, love cacti. I think this looks great. And what I think you could do to make it just a tiny bit better is to make it a perfect square crop. Now, I would be curious to see what this would look like in black and white. So let's go ahead. That's what it looks like in black and white. Now, this is a very bright image. I don't think black and white is the way to go. There's not enough color contrast here between this green and, there's not enough like tonal contrast. There's a lot of color contrast. This is blue, this is red, this is green. So there's not a lot of tonal contrast. You can see if I make this image black and white, what you'll see is, turn down the saturation, the tones are very similar. Everything blends together, and we wouldn't want to do that. So I think you did a great job at keeping this image in color. So good job, Jason. This image looks great in color. I would crop it down to a square to make it just a little bit better, but the color is great. I'd keep it as is. So I think you did a great job capturing this image. I really like kind of a centered, right through the center horizon. I like that your cactus is off on the right third, and then you have this mountain or rock formation centered right there in the middle. Sorry, I keep forgetting that my camera is over here to the side, and I'm not using my traditional webcam in front, so I gotta look over here to the side to make sure I'm making eye contact with you guys. So, new setup. I'm using my Nikon Z6 over here. Hopefully, yeah, I don't think we're overheating or anything. We're using the Nikon Z6. Hopefully, I'm in focus here but I'm using my Nikon Z6 to live stream, which is super cool. I'm so glad. That is one of the few positive things we did get out of COVID. A lot of companies like Nikon, like Panasonic, like Canon, decided to enable live stream with DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. So I think that's super cool that Nikon gave us the web utility app for live streaming, the webcam utility app, I believe it's called. So great job, Jason. I think this image worked really well. And again, my improvement for you in the future is keep looking for compositions. Keep looking for compositions is what I meant to say. I think you did a great job here with composition. Try shooting in square. And if you took this photo with your phone, there are some phones that allow you to go see a completely lost my train of thought because I tried answering a text message while talking to you. Some phones will allow you to change your composition for your photograph. So you can see I have a little bit hard to see here. I have my phone up. This is a picture of me. And I can go ahead and I think I can change this to a 1:1. There's a way to do this somehow. Where I can change, here we go, 4:3 square aspect ratio. So you guys can see this on my iPhone right here. My aspect ratio is, nobody wants to see that close up of my face. You can see the aspect ratio here is a square, and all I did was I hit this little tab here up in the top of the iPhone. I tapped that and it allowed me, you can see 1:1 down here. I know this is hard. I might have to make a video on this, but you can change the aspect ratio of your photos. 16:9 widescreen, 4:3, or 1:1. So I would recommend, if you like, taking 1:1 photos or square photos. I think that might be your style, Jason. So great job on composition. Great job leaving this color. Keep looking for those compositions. I think you have a great eye for photography, and I think you did a great job here. So if anyone has any comments on Jason's photo, let me know. I will attack those. Let's see. So you said I would be inclined to crop to portrait for more of a focus on the cactus. The cactus has the most clarity. Yeah, I absolutely agree. We can take a look back in Photoshop and see what that would look like. I will go back to the original image before I cropped it my way. Let's go back into Photoshop. So we're back in Photoshop. This is the original crop of Jason's image. And what we can do is crop this maybe a 5:7. That feels a little tight. Maybe a 4:5, just a tiny bit tighter than what you have here. And again, when you crop in Photoshop, you have these really nice grids or guidelines for the rule of thirds. And I'm going to hit enter on the computer, save that. And I think that looks pretty good. I kind of like that crop. Now what we've done is we've emphasized by putting our cactus right here on the rule of thirds. Let's go ahead. I'll draw a little guideline for you guys. We've put our cactus here on the third. And what we've done is when you put things on the third, you bring the viewer's attention to those. So what we're doing is we are emphasizing this cactus by putting it on the third. And you can see the same thing in my little webcam here. I'm sitting over here on the third, and then my eyes are on the top third. So you're always looking at my face and not being distracted by things here in the background. I could do the same thing by being perfectly centered. So we can center the cactus, we can put it on a third, but I think putting it on a third is a way of saying I know how to use a photography technique other than centering things. When we first give someone a camera, their initial intention or their initial kind of reaction is to center everything. As you become a photographer and you start learning compositional techniques like rule of thirds, leading lines, things like that, depth of field, you learn how to emphasize things without just centering them. And again, Jason, I think you did a great job with that. You were able to emphasize this cactus, and we did it just a tiny bit more. So play around maybe with cropping your images. We could play around with some other color things in here, but I think you did a great job, Jason. Thank you for the comments in the chat. I appreciate that. I love hearing your guys' comments. We'll go ahead, we'll close this window, and give me just a second here to go ahead and get our next image framed up. I have to got to get our next image framed up. Thank you guys again for joining this live stream. You are awesome. And yes, I think that absolutely, that looked really good doing that crop. So let's see. I hope my live stream is looking okay. I'm going to get our next image set up here. Hopefully it's not too glitchy. Hopefully the resolution is okay for you guys. Hopefully my mic is okay. Let's get our next image set up in Photoshop. Or excuse me, in Facebook. We'll scroll down. And then here we have Beto. We have your image. I'm going to pop up here of this. Is it a Toyota Supra? This car in front of this graffiti. Let's go and we'll switch over to our capture here. Here we go. All right, hopefully you guys can see this. This is Beto's image. He says he does mostly car photography, so thank you for submitting your image for critique. And I think this is pretty cool. One of the first things I noticed is you did a little bit of color work with this, and I think the colors look awesome. You turned down the saturation a tiny bit, and this image kind of has a cool feel. And a lot of times with car photography, a cool feel can really bring out the feeling of steel and technology and this kind of industrial feeling, the strong design. So I think you did a great job. Good job with composition. I like that the wheels are not sitting directly on the lower of the frame. You captured just this little bit of road or curb right here. That's good. They're not sitting directly on the bottom. And I like that you showed off a lot of this graffiti. I don't think it takes away from the car. I think it adds a sense of, let's see, this kind of, I'm trying to think of how to say this. Environment. I think it adds a very nice sense of environment for this car. It's not just a car, it's kind of like an environmental portrait of a car. You did a great job at taking a car portrait. So good job. Let's see, let's take a look. What are some things I like? I like your composition. I think you did a very good job kind of centering this, but you gave a little more room in the front, which I think is always good. If you have an object, especially in motion, I think it's always important to leave a little bit of space in between the object and the front of the frame in the direction that the object is heading, just some compositional space so that it looks like the object has room to move. It adds a sense of motion to the frame, and this looks really good. You captured the side of the car very well, and I think the lighting looks nice and soft. It looks like this potentially could have been maybe a cloudy day. It looks like there are some soft shadows. So great job capturing this image. Now, what would I improve on? You guys let me know down below in the comments what you would improve on. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I really like the 16:9 kind of wide aspect ratio that you did. Let's copy this image. Let's take it over into Photoshop. We'll make a new composition. We will paste the image in here, and let me bring you guys over with me into Photoshop. There's our Photoshop frame. And now we are all together here in Photoshop looking at this photograph. What can we do to improve on this image? And the reason I'm struggling is because I think this is a great image already. So props to taking a really good car photograph. So in Photoshop, if we made this image black and white, I don't think it works as well. I am very happy that you kept this image in color. So we'll take this back, we'll put this image back in color, and I think you did a good job with that. We will keep this image as a colored photograph. You did a good job with the color grading. You brought down the saturation just a little bit, which I think brings the focus towards the car. If the saturation was over cranked, what it would have done is the focus would have been on the wall instead of the car. So again, great job with this. I think this looks really cool. I would like to see some more angles of this car. I think this is a good starting shot. This is a great starting shot. And maybe you took, 100 more photos of this car. I'd like to see more. Absolutely. I think this is a great start. And maybe you just didn't post all of your images, but great job. And in the future, maybe future critiques, I would love to see you participate again. I'd love to see more of your photography. Let's see what we can do. I'm not sure what lens this was taken on. If I had to guess, I would guess maybe 50-ish, maybe a 35 millimeter or a 50-ish millimeter lens, and you step back a little bit, got a nice composition. Maybe if you have a zoom lens like a 100, a 200, maybe you could step back even further and really compress this car. Maybe it would look cool if you could, I'm not sure if this is your car, I'm not sure if this is someone else's car. Maybe the car could be parked a little bit different, like head on, so like directly towards the camera, and you could get focus on the front of the car, and then the background just kind of blurs, the mural blurs in the background. I'm not sure if this is a parking lot where you're allowed to park your car, but I think there's a lot of things that you can do just by moving the car a little bit. Maybe we can make this composition, it looks really great. Maybe we can make it a little more dynamic. Maybe we could turn the car 45 degrees, maybe 90 degrees directly front towards the camera. Maybe we flip that around 90 degrees the other way so we just see the tail lights. It might be cool just to add a little bit. You can do this in Photoshop, or go ahead and turn the car lights on just to add a little bit of light on the wall. You can see some light here if the car lights were on, the tail lights, the running lights. It would just add maybe a tiny bit of pop by having those lights. So again, you did a great job. Thank you so much for sharing your image. And I don't think I have much to say about it because I think you did a really good job, and I would really like to see more of your images here in the future, in future critiques. So let's go ahead. We will go back now to let's go back to our Facebook page. And if you guys, again, have any questions, anything to say, feel free to let me know. Actually, we've been streaming for about an hour already. I've been taking my time with these photos. Might have to speed up a little bit. I want to make sure I'm getting to everyone and we're seeing everyone's photo. Hey, Gilad, welcome to the live stream. And then everybody who is in here, welcome. Feel free to drop your comments. Let me know what you guys are thinking. If you have any comments about, it looks like my live stream bitrate might be slowing down a little bit, but that's okay. Our stream is still doing okay. I'm going to go ahead and maybe I will pause. I'm also watching the live stream, so thank you guys so much for being here. Let's see if that helps us speed up this live stream bitrate a little bit if I'm not also watching. So thank you everyone for being a part of this live stream. I'm going to open up Facebook here in just a second. Let's open up Facebook and let's take a look at our next image. So we're going to scroll down. We have an image from Josiah. So what we're going to do is I will transition you guys over to, let's see, not Photoshop. Actually, I'm going to open, I can't see this entire image in my web browser, so I'm going to open it up in Photoshop so we can see the full composition. This is a really cool looking photograph of, looks like a butterfly. Let's bring you guys over into Photoshop. And here we go. Okay, we are in Photoshop. We are looking at this image from Josiah. Thank you so much, Josiah, for submitting your photograph for critique. Let me know, you guys, in the comments if you have any sort of comments for this. And to answer your question, the camera that I personally shoot with, I guess it depends. For this live stream, we are shooting with a Nikon Z6 right now. So we're live streaming with the Z6. I apologize if the quality of this isn't amazing. Running into some bandwidth issues right now. So let's see. Oh, good. We have 8 people in the chat. That is awesome. So again, I'm shooting this with my Z6, my Nikon Z6 webcam. I personally take photographs on my Nikon Z6. I also have Panasonic GH5, GH6. I currently have a Nikon Z8 that Canon graciously sent me to do some reviews on. So I will have some Canon Z8 reviews coming very soon. But I shoot on anything. Hand me a camera and I will take photos on it. So let's go ahead. Yeah, thank you. I think editing out that line on the left is smart. So I'm going to go into Photoshop. I'm going to take a look at this image and let's see. So let's talk about light. This is a silhouette. This is a very strong technique to use when you're really trying to focus on, again, composition. Very strong. This looks very good. This is a great looking image. I love you nailed sharpness. You nailed composition. This looks great. I love it centered. Something that I might do, maybe I would see what this would look like again as a square. How does this look as a square? Something else I might do, we talked about removing the line. Maybe we just crop in a little bit. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that is a stronger composition? I personally like it. I think we've kind of centered this butterfly. Let me know what you guys think of that edit. If we go ahead and we completely remove that line and we get rid of some of the extra space on the top and the bottom. Go ahead and I will undo that. But again, here's what that potential crop could look like. We could also, we don't have to go with a square. We can do an 8x10, which it is right now. We'll keep the current composition and the current aspect ratio, and maybe we'll just tighten it up a little bit. Maybe we want to keep some of these branches. We can do this. This is a potential crop right here, if you guys can hopefully see that pretty well. This looks good as an 8x10 crop, having the butterfly here kind of right on this lower third. I think that's a very strong composition. We can also take our butterfly and we can put him on the upper third. I think this is a very strong composition again as well. This is a great image, and I think there are some things where the image, it looks fantastic, but you can do that extra little 1% and you can go from good, really good image to great and just take that next extra step. So let me know what you guys think. I think either keeping it as a square or using this 8x10 crop looks really nice. I think either one, Josiah, would look great. Thank you for submitting your image. I think this looks awesome. I think black and white was a really good choice. I think a silhouette was a really good choice. And I think you made a lot of strong, compositional and photography decisions here. And like we're saying in the chat, I think cropping out this little kind of black line over here, it can kind of, you can see it one of two ways. You can see it as framing the subject, but I think as soon as we get rid of it and we just kind of crop it out a tiny bit, I think we're having a stronger composition. So I personally would probably crop this to an 8x10 and just bring it in a touch. And I would probably, Let's see. The butterfly's wings are very strong here on a third. Excuse me. So I wouldn't center it. I think I would keep it on a third, either the top third or the bottom third. That way, you kind of have these blurry objects here, which are probably the leaves, out of focus leaves. You have those, and they help kind of anchor the image. They give you a sense of environment, and that's what I mean by anchor. Um, I would probably crop it there, or I would crop it down here and keep the butterfly on the upper third. I think butterflies are something that flies, so keeping it higher up in the image kind of has that sense of lightness versus down in the image. Something at the bottom of a photograph has a heavier feel, and something at the top of the photograph spatially has kind of a lighter feel. Like you would see a bird, you would expect to see a bird in the air, you'd expect to see a car on the ground for the most part. We don't see cars flying very often, or an airplane in the air, a butterfly in the air. So you're just kind of playing with those psychological ideas. And this butterfly, even though he has landed on the leaf, kind of has that light, airy feel. And I think you did a great job with this image, Josiah. Keep looking for those compositions. You caught a great moment of this butterfly climbing on this leaf. Good job. You captured it sharply. Great job getting a sharp image. You used depth of field. You used lighting very well. So fantastic job. Keep working on those compositions. Keep working on those crops. You are capturing great images. You have a great photographic eye. Great job. Keep that up in the future. Let's take a look at our next image now. I'm going to take us back into Facebook. Actually, how about we take just a couple seconds of a break, maybe about a minute. Let's pause for a minute. If anyone has to grab some coffee, I might grab a little more coffee. I'll be back in about, how about a minute? I got some phone calls and things to answer real quick and some text messages. Give me just a minute. We'll take a little bit of an intermission here. And we'll be right back in just a minute to take a look at more photos. So again, thank you guys for joining. Quick pause. I will not end the live stream. We'll keep it going. But we're just going to take a quick 1 minute intermission, and I'll just mute my mic real quick. All right, I'll be right back. All right, folks, I will not wait. I will not make you guys wait any longer. I just need to grab a little bit more coffee and answer some messages, but we are back to the live stream now. Thank you to everyone who is joining the live stream. I'm going to open up Photoshop here. We have our next image from Vicky Miles. Thank you so much, Vicky. We will open this image up in Photoshop. This ended up being kind of a low... Oh, here we go. I have to open up the full resolution image. That was my fault. And the caption is my little therapy ferret named Cinnamon. So let's open up this photograph of Cinnamon, your ferret, in Photoshop. That's a tongue twister. Open up a new composition. We will paste. And here we go. Let me show you guys my Photoshop screen. We are back here. We are live streaming. Thank you to everyone who submitted images again. Thank you to Vicky for sharing a photo of your ferret. I appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who shared photos and to everyone who is joining in this live stream critique. Now, this will all be recorded. It's all being recorded on my YouTube channel, and we will have this available forever. If you happen to miss this, or you happen to have to leave somewhere and you want to watch this later on and still hear your critique. So these will always be recorded. I'll see if I can find a way to upload this to the Facebook group. Sometimes Facebook video quality isn't that great. It's always better to have it in our, native YouTube platform. So we are here. We are in Photoshop. We are looking at Vicky's photograph of a ferret. So, all right, what would you guys do? I am open to suggestions from you. What would you guys do to make this image better? What would you say that Vicky did well here, or what she can improve upon? I have Photoshop open. One of the first things I see that you did is you used rule of thirds. I actually just noticed Cinnamon is wearing a little leather jacket here, which I think is very cute. And once again, points to you, just like Deanna. Cute animals are always going to make great pictures. So a couple things here. Let's talk about what you did right. You used rule of thirds very well. I will go ahead and I will show you guys. Here's a little rule of thirds crop preview, and you can see that Cinnamon's head here is right on this rule of thirds section, and same thing with the body, kind of right in this upper rule of thirds. Now, good job on that. That makes our eye go right towards the ferret. Now, what I find a little bit distracting is all of these kind of benches and things going in the background. So there's a couple things that you can do here. You can use depth of field to kind of blur out the background, or potentially you can crop in. This might look good with a little bit of a crop. Let's see. Maybe if this were a horizontal image, let's kind of keep the same composition. What do you guys think about that? If this were taken horizontally, because ferrets are very long, so taking a vertical picture of a ferret, you're losing some of the body of the ferret, which is okay, but we're introducing a lot of kind of extraneous or extra information like the table and the background that we don't necessarily need to see. I think we really want to focus on this. It's like a ferret portrait. So I'll zoom in here, make this a little bit bigger for you guys, but I like that composition better. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's see. Thank you, Jason. Thanks for leaving a comment. I appreciate you sharing your photo. Great job. Keep up the great work, and thank you for joining the chat. Let's see. But sorry, I really can't see your phone. Or can I show you photos? Let's see. Yeah, let me give you, I will give you a link. You can drop a photo in. Give me just a second. Let me give you the Facebook link to drop your photo into. I appreciate you coming and listening to our live stream. So let me give you the event, Facebook event, and what you can do is there is a discussion tab, and you can go ahead, you can drop your photo in there right now. So let me drop, let me know if if that works for you. That should be the live photo critique link. Let's see, video capture. Give me just a second here. All right, so that should be the live photo critique link. Let me know if you are able to go over into the discussion tab. There should be an about tab and a discussion tab for the event. Let me know. Everything's freezing up a little bit. Let me know if you can go ahead and you can drop your image there, and I will see it in just a second after it'll be in the queue after we are done taking a look at Vicky's photo of her ferret. And I got to go back to, give me just a second to go back to Facebook, reading through comments as well. Here we are. So it takes me a second to get caught up with you guys because I am looking at some different windows. And yes, we are looking at Vicky's image of the ferret here in Photoshop. All right, so we are caught up. Let's see, would this image look good in black and white? Let's find out. That looks good in black and white. Really emphasizes that leather jacket. The background is not as distracting. Black and white is a good option. So Vicky, what I think you did well. Oh, I'm not showing you guys Photoshop. Let me go ahead and show you Photoshop. That was my mistake. Sorry, I started going ahead and editing and I forgot you guys weren't with me here in Photoshop. So we have the option. We could turn this image into black and white, or we could keep it the way it is, but I highly recommend giving this image a bit of a crop so that we know who our subject is. Our subject is Cinnamon the ferret. What we want to do is remove all of the extraneous information, all of the extra stuff that really isn't a part of the image. The tables in the background weren't necessarily a part of the image. The table in the foreground, our picnic table, wasn't necessarily a part of the image. We really want to focus on the ferret here. And so what I did is I cropped a little bit in, I took a little bit off the top and I took a little bit off the bottom, and we made this a horizontal crop, and I think that makes the composition. Excuse me, a lot of coffee this morning. I think that makes this composition a lot stronger. So good job. Keep up the good work. Keep looking for those moments. I'm going to assume that you're shooting on an iPhone or a smartphone, Android, whatever you're shooting on. Maybe try ensure that your focus is on the ferret. So you can see here the focus of this image is kind of down below. If we go and we hit Control Z, you can see the focus is nice and sharp here, but it looks like the eyes are just a tiny bit blurry. Make sure you're focusing on your subject. Sometimes that's as simple as just tapping on the screen to making sure that the area where you tap your phone will usually focus. And then I would take your phone and instead of doing a horizontal composition, or excuse me, instead of doing a vertical composition, again, remember long objects like a ferret are going to be probably photographed a little bit better horizontally. So good job, Vicky. Keep up the good work. And let's go ahead, let's move on to our next image here. And we have an image from Bob. This is a really cool looking photo of a waterfall. Let's go ahead. I'm going to copy this image over into Photoshop so you guys can see what I'm looking at. I keep forgetting I have to click the photo, copy image, and there we go. This is our image from Bob. It's a very pretty looking waterfall. Good, you guys should be able to see that now. So thank you, Bob, for submitting your image. All right, you just got your photo posted. We will look at that here in just a minute. Let's take a look at Bob's photo, and then we'll go ahead and we will take a look. I believe there's 2 photos right now in the actual Facebook live stream event page. So go ahead, we'll look at those photos, and then maybe in a little bit, I don't know how long you guys want to live stream. Maybe we'll take a break. Sorry, just answering some text messages here. Okay, so back to the live stream, back to Bob's photograph. Folly Dolly Falls in Yorkshire. So that is somewhere over in the UK. I don't think I've ever been to Yorkshire. But thank you so much for submitting. I love waterfalls. Absolutely enjoy taking photos of waterfalls. I love looking at photos of waterfalls. To me, there's just the rushing of water. There's always a sense of peacefulness, and I just automatically hear that sense. I automatically hear the waterfall and kind of get that sense of peacefulness. So again, thank you so much, Bob, for submitting this photograph. This is great. I think you did a really good job compositionally. I think that this looks great. The colors look really good. I think that you did a good job using a slow shutter speed to show that rushing of a waterfall. I always recommend you guys slow down your shutter speed, use a tripod when capturing waterfalls, and you can get this nice rushing feeling, this nice feeling of movement and motion in your waterfall photographs. So great job, Bob. You did that very well. So let's take a look at this image. We'll talk about what you did very well, and we'll see what we can kind of improve upon. So just kind of open a grid here real quick, and you did a good job centering this image. This horizon up here on the upper third, that looks good. It looks like it's hard to tell if this is a hill up here or the composition is kind of turned to the left or leaning to the left. And what makes me feel like it's leaning is because I'm looking at these trees here that feel like they're leaning to the left. So I'm not sure if the horizon is kind of leaning this way. If that's a little more straight. If not, I might be wrong. It's possible. Sometimes trees just grow at an angle like that. And it looks like this tree in the front is definitely growing at an angle. But good job compositionally. The one thing I might do is we have a lot of extra space in the sky here. I might crop this a tiny bit so that we're really focused on this waterfall. So let me know what you guys think about a crop. So I would probably crop this about right here, an 8x10. Let me know what you think about that. I think that is a solid crop on this waterfall. So what we can do now is, let me think for just a second here. That looks pretty darn good. Again, you started off with a strong image, so when I don't have a lot to say, that means you did a really good job. You did a great job with the composition. I would just crop a little bit off the top, a little bit of extraneous information up there, and because the sky is bright, our eye kind of tends to go up towards the top of the image, and what that does is cropping off the top of the image, making it an 8x10, kind of compressing the composition a little bit. It keeps our eye and the eye of the viewer in the center of this image right here. So what I can do, and I didn't even think about this until now, I can draw on these photographs. And if I draw on these photographs, I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. So we have our horizon is up here, correct? Here we go. Our horizon is up here, and you guys can probably see that red really well. And then we had this very, very bright bit of the sky up here. Well, where we really want to focus is right here on this waterfall. So cropping out that bit, make sure our eyes come down here towards the center of the waterfall. And everything is kind of framed up right here. And as you can see, the tree helps frame that composition. This little bit of land over here on the side, this helps frame the composition. This horizon helps frame the waterfall. And this water moving right here helps frame it. So there's this sense of motion, not only with the waterfall, but there's a sense of motion going straight through the photograph. And it's a diagonal, and diagonals are very strong compositionally. So I will remove all of my red marks here red marks are a little bit scolding, so maybe I'll use a different color. But Bob, you did a great job with this waterfall photograph. Keep up the great work. I'd love to see more angles of this photograph. Maybe, let's see, it looks like it's hard to get any closer. And sometimes your environment just kind of limits the shots you can take. I think you did a really good job with this. Great job with the composition. Great job with the exposure. Great job with the shutter speed. All over, great image. Great job, Bob. That's really all I have to say. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your image with us. That's a great photo of a waterfall. Let's go ahead. Let's transition back over to Facebook. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at Facebook again and see what image we have next. I believe if I go to, let me go to our Facebook group, or excuse me, our event. Let's take a look at some of these images in the discussion tab. Let's see. Here we go. I just got the image of this. Is it a duck or a loon? But I will open this right now. Copy image, and we will open this in Photoshop right now, and then we will get to this other image of a waterfall. Here, so I'm going to open this image, create a new composition, paste, and let's show you guys Photoshop. So we have this image here. This looks great. This is an image of, feel free to let me know in the group chat whether it's a duck or a loon. I'm not super savvy when it comes to birds. I'm sure you are, because again, this is a great photograph. I think you you did great with this. Let's talk about now what's good about this photograph, what's great about this photograph, and what we can improve upon in the future. So we are here in Photoshop, and as always, thank you so much for sharing your photo with us. Thank you to everyone who's participating or listening or watching right now. So this looks great, very sharp, tack sharp, very sharp image. You did a great job of using shallow depth of field with that long lens. This is probably at least a 200 millimeter, if not a 300 or a 400, to get this really tight composition. And the background is just kind of blurred off so we can really focus on how sharp the bird is. So let's see. I'm not going to crop this image. I'm just curious to see rule of thirds wise. Yes. You did a great job composition wise, whether you cropped in camera or cropped a little bit in Photoshop or Lightroom. Great job. You can see the head of the bird here is right on this rule of thirds intersection, which makes it a very strong composition. The body here is right on the other third, and we're kind of off-centered just a little bit, and it just gives a really strong composition. I really enjoy this image. Let's see. Would this image look good in black and white? No, I don't think it looks as good in black and white. I think you made the right choice of keeping this photograph in color. So you did a lot of things right here. The composition looks fantastic. Very sharp. Fantastic. You used the right camera settings, you used the right crop, and you captured a nice little moment of the bird looking over his back, over his shoulder, and you captured that moment. You did a great job. And this is one of those images where I almost don't have much to say because you did such a good job. I love the ripples in the water. I love that those are sharp. I am very curious what lens you used, what camera you used to capture this. A loon, and used a 400 millimeter. Yeah, fantastic. That's using a super long lens like that is one of the only ways that you can really hop in there. And sorry, Jason, I just saw your comment about Arizona. If you're still here, just saw that now. Um, let's see. Yeah, great job, Jason, on your photograph. But back to our photograph of the loon. This is awesome. I every now and then I've been able to capture photos of birds myself, but it is not easy, and it's not easy to get the eyeball sharp. That's why I'm curious to know what camera you used. Were you manual focusing? Were you auto focusing? Did you have like the eye detection on? Um, but I'm really curious to know a little bit more about your settings. And maybe in future critiques, I may ask for settings. So you used a Canon R8 with a 100 to 400 f5.6. So you are probably wide open at 5.6, and used autofocus. Awesome. Yeah, fantastic job. Just that's really what I have to say. You cropped very well. Your composition looks good, whether you added a little extra crop in Lightroom, Photoshop, whatever editing software you use. Um, Absolutely awesome. I would love to see more of your images in future critiques. Um, you did a really good job with this. Oh, you shot at f7. Wow. Okay. Um, yeah, it is so darn sharp. And you said you used the Canon R8. Awesome. I think I did a review on the Canon R8, I believe. Um, Canon R8's a fun camera. Full frame, takes some pretty darn good photographs. Yeah, I think I did a quick review. One of my buddies has a Canon EOS R8, and I believe he has a Canon R5, or an R6 Mark I, and an R5. My buddy Lewis has a bunch of Canon cameras. Be sure to check out Lewis Carlisle Photography on YouTube. He has an awesome landscape channel. So if you have a couple minutes, give him a look. He is the Canon guy. He knows so much more about Canon cameras. He has owned so many Canon cameras. Everything from the DSLRs, the 5D SR, the 5D Mark IV. I think he had a 5D Mark III or II at one point. But this guy has had almost everything Canon. He's transitioning a little bit over to mirrorless. He still has his 5D SR. He just bought a 135 millimeter f2.8, and he's going to take some portraits on that lens. So I may have to borrow that lens from Lewis at some point for my Canon 5D Mark II, because that's the most recent camera I have. But I will be doing more Canon reviews in the future. Canon makes awesome cameras. Nikon makes awesome cameras. Pretty much everybody makes awesome cameras these days. But you have an absolute fantastic photo here. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. And I really hope, hopefully I was able to help or at least encourage in the future. Keep this up. I would love to see, maybe you have to wait a little bit. Maybe the loon eventually will spread his wings as he goes to like take off. Maybe you can capture the loon kind of. It's interesting. I've seen swans and ducks when they come in for their landing on the lake. They'll put their feet out, and it's kind of like their skis, and they'll come in and ski on their feet, and they'll use their wings as like brakes. And it's really cool watching them ski in, and it's kind of the opposite as they go out. They won't really ski out, but you'll see them. And sometimes I think they're just stretching too. They'll just kind of spread their wings out, but when they go to take off, they'll just kind of shoot out of the water and start flapping, which is really cool. That's the best loon impression that I can do. But yeah, dude, this is a great photograph. So I almost don't have anything else to say about it. You captured what I said earlier, a quiet moment. So that was again the difference between a quiet moment and like a loud, explosive moment of the loon coming in or taking off, or that's kind of a quiet moment too, the big stretch where you see like the wings and all the feathers. And sometimes I think they might do that for like if they see something scary like a predator, they'll kind of stretch out to make themselves look bigger. I might be making all that up, but yeah, maybe try in the future. And it's going to require some time just sitting there. You may have already, captured that moment. But yeah, let's see. And I can send you, yeah, feel free if you want to drop any more images into the event, into that Facebook event. I'll take a look in just a minute. Thank you for submitting that. We're going to move on to, um, let's see, Algina. Again, I hope I am pronouncing your name right. We're going to take a look at Algina's image here in Photoshop. We'll make a new composition. Paste this image here. Looks like we have a husky. I have a husky. I love huskies. And it looks like the husky either has a toy or potentially a bird, and it looks like it's a very chilly, frosty morning. So we are here looking at our next photograph in Photoshop, and I really hope we have enough time to get through all of these photos. I apologize if we end up missing some photos. Thank you so much, Algina. Maybe I'll just have to... Ooh, we got a lot of photos to go. So I will say that I might not... If you submitted more than one photo, I might not be able to get to all of them. I'd like to try and get to everyone at least once. So I'm going to speed up my critiques a little bit. I've been a little bit slow. I've been spending, 10 minutes on every photo. I'm going to speed up my critiques a little bit because I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to at least have one photo critiqued and show off at least one image here. And also, I just want to shout out to me. Shout out my newsletter. So I have my photography newsletter. I will drop that in the chat here if you are interested. I send it out once every month, sometimes twice a month. I'm aiming to send it out twice a month. But here is my photography newsletter link if you guys want to sign up for that. Basically, it's called the Photography Insider. And what it is, I started this Photography Insider newsletter probably about a month ago. I've had 2 issues go out already. The third one is going to come out here next Monday, I believe. I'm aiming to have it come out. Actually, this coming Monday is my goal for the beginning of March. And this Monday's newsletter is going to be, I believe, a photography challenge, like a 30-day challenge. Let me tell you just for a minute a little bit about my Photography Insider newsletter. So I've been sending out emails for quite a while. I now have over 1,000 people, which is awesome, who have signed up for my newsletter. So I decided I'm going to do something a little new with this newsletter, and I'm going to give education and inspiration. So it's nice at the beginning of the week to get a little bit of inspiration for the week. So, and it's all, again, photography related. So I send out my attempt to inspire you and get you guys motivated for the week, and some prompts to get you kind of thinking in a different way, thinking differently than everyone else on YouTube or all the photography teachers that you see. I try and take some of my motivations, some of my knowledge, and I try and combine that into a bi-monthly newsletter and get you guys inspired for the week. Let me transition here to a full video capture. Here we go. So talking right to you guys in the camera. Sweet. I will take a look at your photo here in just a second. Grab a little more coffee. So the Photography Insider newsletter, that's my way to try and get you guys inspired for the week or for the month, to go out, take some photos, accept some challenges, do something different, think about photography a little bit different this month, kind of expand your horizons, get out of your comfort zone. And then I throw some tips in there as well. So whether you're just beginning, whether you're learning more things in Photoshop or Lightroom, how to edit, I love to throw in some photography tips. So be sure to subscribe to my Run and Gun Photography Insider newsletter that comes out. Just drop your email address in there, and I'm not going to spam you with a bunch of garbage. I will give you my education and inspiration newsletter, and then usually at the bottom of that newsletter, I'll throw in a related video, a tutorial, a challenge, something like that, to kind of get you guys started and get you thinking a little bit more and get your brain tweaked to start thinking about photography and how to look at the world differently this week or this month. So that is my Photography Insider newsletter. I hope you guys sign up for it. I think it's a lot of fun. I will stop talking about it right now and we'll hop right back into those critiques. So let's go ahead. Let's open Photoshop. Let's get back to our image. And we are looking at this image of the husky playing in the water. So here I am again at the bottom of the screen. Let's take a look at this image. So what do I like about this image? The first thing I notice, I love the colors. You can see in this photograph, we have some oranges, we have some blues, and it looks like you took this at sunrise. It feels warm and cool, and I think the oranges, let me open up my brush here. These oranges that you have here look really good. There's some orange over here and some orange here, and the orange kind of frames this blue of the water, and there's some orange light back here as well. I think that looks really good. You did a great job going out in the morning nice and early when it looks very cool. It looks like everything's covered in frost. You got a good time of day, you got a good time of year, and you obviously got a good moment capturing your dog here playing in this pond or stream or lake, whatever this body of water is. Kind of looks like a little creek or a stream moving. So your lighting is fantastic. I love the light. I love the color. It's this blue contrasting with this orange that looks really good. And the dog has a little bit of orange light. He's wagging his tail. He just grabs some sort of little toy. This is a really cool looking image. So what it's very strong for is light. Let's open up a grid. So we have kind of a horizon line over here. What I might do to this image, if it were me personally, there's some kind of extraneous information up here. I might crop in a little bit. Something like that. Maybe we'll really crop in on the dog. I'm not sure if you took this on a phone or a DSLR image. Something like that maybe. That way, actually I want a little bit more of that frost. How about something like this? Let me know what you guys think about that crop. I feel like we could bring it in just a little bit tighter and really focus on the dog. We know the dog's in water because of the splashing, so we can crop in a little bit and get just a little bit of a tighter image. But again, great job on lighting. You picked a great time of day to photograph. Golden hour, whether it's at sunrise or sunset, is a fantastic time to photograph. And I would just recommend zooming into your subject a little bit. By zooming in just a little bit, we can still see the environment. We still have a sense of location, and you captured a good moment with great lighting. So thank you so much for sharing your photo with us for critique. Again, I'm going to try and move through these a little bit quicker. Thank you to Elgina Longman for sharing your photo. We have a photograph now from Richard. Let's take a look at this portrait, Richard. This is in black and white already. Let's go and paste this into Photoshop. All right. We have this portrait from Richard. This is really cool looking. We have this kind of Phantom of the Opera looking mask, and we have this lady who's slightly out of focus here in the background. We have a light source here, a hair light or a background light. We have a light source that's making this Rembrandt lighting. I noticed your Rembrandt lighting. It looks really good. You can tell Rembrandt lighting by the triangle here underneath the eye. Great job with this photograph, Richard. So let's talk about what you did right and what we could potentially improve on. What you did right is a really cool looking composition. The way you split both the mask in half and the subject in the back, you created this sense of mystery, not only by kind of obscuring your subject in the background, you're kind of forcing this mask into the foreground, and it makes you wonder, is the mask the subject? Is the person the subject? And you did that in a good way. It's not me questioning your subject. It's me as a viewer having interest. You've created this sense of mystery. So you did that in a good way. You you kind of knew how to break the rules. So typically, we will not take a portrait and crop someone in half. However, you can do that if you know how to use the rules, then you can break the rules. So this is a great job of breaking the rules of photography and the rules of portraiture to create a sense of mystery. So great job on that, Richard. I love the light. There's just a little bit of rim light here on the shoulder. There's a little bit of light on the hand, so we can kind of see a distinction between the hand, the arm, and the background. So great job throwing that background light in there. I really appreciate that. So composition, fantastic. This is a very unique tall composition that's like, what is this, a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 ratio? That's awesome. Let's see. Great job. It's a little wider than 16 by 9, so my guess is going to be about a 2-to-1, maybe a 3-to-1, like I said. Great job on your crop. I really, really enjoy this. Great job on your lighting. Fantastic. The lighting is great. We have just enough light to show a little bit of the subject's face, a little bit of the mask, a little bit around to kind of paint around our subject and sculpt our subject, but not too much as to reveal too much information. There's a lot of hidden information. So I think this is fantastic. I would be curious to know what this is for. Is this for like a movie poster? I am wondering though, my only critique is maybe there's a little bit of information kind of here on the bottom that you can see that this doesn't share too much information, and maybe like a little bit on the top where this could be extra information. So what if we took this image and let's flip that like a 16 by 9, if you can kind of see what I'm doing here, and we cropped in just a little bit. What do you guys think about that? Just a little bit tighter, and that way we don't have that extra information on the top and bottom. We can lose a little bit of the hair, that's okay. You did a very good job separating your subject from the background with the use of light. What do you guys think about that composition? I enjoy that. That would probably be my only critique. So I think you did a great job, Richard. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much for sharing your image with us. And that would probably be my only critique, is maybe crop in just a touch. I think you have a really unique composition. You can still keep that vertical composition, but maybe just a touch of a crop. So we're going to move on to our next image here. This is an awesome image from Sandy. And this is really cool. This pure with this, it's a long exposure of this pier with this Ferris wheel, and we have this tower over here. Let's take a look at this. That's really neat. This is cool. I really enjoy this. I like that you made this black and white. I think that makes it a very strong composition. Like I said before, square is a very strong way to go with your composition. It is almost square. I would probably take this, and I think if this were me and this were my photograph, I think I would crop out this extraneous information on the right, and I think I would maybe make this a perfect square. Let me know what you guys think. I think that would probably be my only advice for this photograph. The lighting looks great. You have your lighting from, I'm not sure if this is day or night because it's a long exposure. This could very potentially be at night, lit up by the moon. So yeah, I'm not sure if this is taken at the day or during the day or night because it's black and white. But great job. This could be lit up from the sun. This could be lit from the moon. It almost looks like it's daytime, right? But the one thing that I thought of, it is a long exposure, and this without some ND filters would be very difficult to get during the day. So great job. It's kind of mysterious. It gives me those questions. I love the blurred water on the bottom of this image. I think that looks fantastic, and I love the composition. You did a great job. Just think of different like squares and rectangles and different ways to crop this, I think. But Sandy, you're doing a fantastic job. Keep up the good work. I'd love to see more of your compositions in the future. So next we have a portrait here, and I'm gonna have to apologize before we even get started that I don't want to botch your name. You have a very unique name. I'm not sure where you're from, but you have a very interesting name. Jurate? I don't want to get that wrong, but thank you so much for sharing your photograph. Let's open it up here in Photoshop. Here we go. This is an awesome portrait of this violinist. This looks great. It's very nice and sharp. The entire image is sharp, and you did a lot of cool things. You did a very wide angle portrait, so we're seeing these long, nice lines, and these lines do a great job. These trees do a great job of framing our subject, who is this lady holding this really cool looking violin. So this is awesome. I think you did a really good job with this. I like the elongated portrait composition. Looks awesome. These trees make this a very solid looking image. These trees like anchor the image, and they anchor the subject towards the middle of the image, if that makes sense. And they're kind of like leading lines. We'll do an experiment here in just a second. So we can see here, you framed your subject very well, dead center, and these lines just kind of lead and anchor our subject. I'll draw some of my own lines here. So we have our trees that everyone can see here. Make those very visible. And then we have these other trees that kind of act almost as a natural vignette. And then we have our horizon here on the bottom. And then we have the violin also pointed towards our subject. So we have all of these things, and then these trees here are leading lines towards our subject. So we have a lot of things pointing right towards our subject. And with our subject dead center here, it makes it very clear who our subject is. So this is a very, very strong environmental portrait. You used a wide angle lens properly, you used composition properly, and by using a very deep depth of field, you made sure to get everything in focus, and you used your composition and you did everything right. This is fantastic. So if I had a critique to change, what would it be? What would this image look like in black and white, just for fun? That looks okay. I don't hate it. I don't hate it in black and white. I think color is important because the dress is red and this violin is red. So I think that's important. Now you could do selective color. Oh, and also her lipstick is red. So you have these three objects that are red. So to me, that says color is important to this photograph. So I shouldn't go and change it to black and white. What could we do to this image to make it even stronger? Could we crop just a tiny bit? Maybe. Does that help the image? Not necessarily. I don't think that necessarily makes it better. Maybe, what if we just chopped a little bit off the top of the image? Does that make the image better? Not necessarily. I think the very wide looks good. Excuse me. Here's something I just noticed that we could potentially do to make this image better. I want to see down here at the bottom, we have cropped off the very end with the tuners of the violin. That's one thing that maybe if we just saw a little bit of the end at the bottom. So let's say if the tuners, the end of the guitar, the end of the neck started right here and then worked its way up this way so that our tuners would be right here on the side. Hopefully this makes sense. I would love to see just a tiny bit more of the guitar. Or excuse me, I play guitar. I don't know if you guys can see it, I have my guitars here in the background. automatically just see strings and think guitar. This is a violin. Um, Looks fantastic. I would like to see a little bit more of the top of the violin. The head of it. I don't think you can really do anything to make this any better because this is an awesome image. The lighting looks great. Nice soft light. Can't see. Do you have... Look in here. It's possible that you may have used a reflector or just the snow on the ground is acting as a reflector, but very good job. Nice soft lighting. This is fantastic. So you did a fantastic job with this portrait. There's really really not much you can do with this because you did a great job. So again, if you guys have any comments, let me know down below in the chat. I'll try and get to as many as possible. So that was a fantastic portrait. Let's take a look at Fiona's photo. We have an image here of a cute puppy. Thank you, Fiona, for sharing this with us. Make a new composition, and here we go. We have this cute picture of a puppy, white puppy, and it looks like a little lamb toy right now, and it looks like the puppy may even be on some sort of a furry pillow or a furry blanket, or maybe there's more puppies here that we just can't see. So I think good job with composition. Good job getting exposure. It is very difficult to photograph, and I saw someone had made a comment in the Facebook comments that this image was a little bit white, and I will disagree with that because the image is white. Sometimes we're going to photograph things that are white, and your exposure is dead on. You nailed exposure. You did a great job because here's what happens in our cameras. If we take a photo of a very bright white scene, and I'm about to talk about this in a video that I'm dropping in a week or two about how to get the perfect exposure and use our light meters in our camera. But what happened is you nailed the exposure. You did a great job. And typically what our cameras like to do, if they see a scene that is all white, your camera thinks that the scene is overexposed. So sometimes we'll have to compensate because your camera would naturally, its first instinct is to go, oh, this is very bright, let's make it dark. So you did a good job overcoming your camera. It's just a limitation of all cameras and how cameras see light. You did a very good job overcoming that and creating a very well lit, very soft photograph. And what looks great is, I think it's a chair. There's some fabric on this chair in the background. The upholstery looks great. The only thing I may do to this photograph is a little bit of a crop. I think maybe, see how there's just like this little section of the image that's just all white down there? Maybe crop it just a tiny bit to an 8x10. But other than that, the white looks great. Again, photos of dogs and puppies are always super cute. So keep up the good work. Keep taking photos. Keep paying attention to exposure. You're doing a great job with that. So thank you so much, Fiona, for sharing that. We have an image coming up now. Copy image. This is from Dave Taylor, a photo of a bee climbing on some flowers. Let's see. Here we go. Copy image. We'll take it over into Photoshop. Here we go. And it is 11 o'clock. We have been streaming for 2 hours now. So I'm actually getting a little bit hungry. Let me know, would you guys like to do a part 2 this afternoon? Maybe we critique Dave's photo and we do a part 2. I'm thinking let's come back. So here we go. Here's the plan. We've been streaming for 2 hours already. You guys are awesome. And I can imagine, let me bring up a full screen video and let me talk directly to you guys. So we've been live streaming for 2 hours. Thank you so much. Actually, I guess it would help if I'm in focus. There we go. I got to scoot up since I'm using a DSLR instead of a webcam. We're not using autofocus. So we've been live streaming for 2 hours, and I've been critiquing photos for 2 hours now, and I'm almost out of coffee again, and I could use a little bit of lunch. So here's what we're gonna do. What I like to do is we're gonna critique. Actually, let's come back. 2 hours is a solid live stream. We're gonna come back, and we're gonna come back to, I believe this is Dave's photo of this bee. This is a fantastic photo of a bee. Dave, we're gonna come right back to you in part 2 of a live stream. So for all the people that weren't able to make it, we're gonna do part 2. I will post this in the Facebook page, and then we're gonna try and move a little faster through the other images. I just kind of didn't pay attention to time, and I was moving a little slow through these images. So the live stream ended up being 2 hours, and we got through, I think, a little less than half of the image. So I'd like to do part 2 here. So we'll do critique number 2 in one day, and we'll get both of these 2 videos done in one day. So thank you so much. As I kick my camera, thank you guys so much for joining me for this critique. If you enjoyed this, I want to do this more often. I'd like to do this about once a month, so hopefully everyone is learning together as a community, because I think this is a great way to learn. So let's go ahead. We'll cut out the live stream, but before we do, be sure to subscribe to the channel and subscribe to my Photography Insider newsletter. So again, I can post that again in our chat. Oh, Morning Meds, welcome to the chat. Just passing through from Jamaica. Nice to meet you. Welcome to the chat. Glad to have you. We'll be doing a part 2 here later today, so you can join us for that as well. Just so we can get through the rest of these photos, and everybody can make sure. I need to get some lunch. I need to get some more coffee, and we'll make sure everyone is not sitting around waiting for their photos to get critiqued while I'm eating lunch. So subscribe to the channel, and as always, get out there, go take some great photos. Subscribe to my Photography Insider newsletter. I will drop that link again down in the chat so you can subscribe to the newsletter. And thank you so much for, you guys made this happen. Your guys' images are what made this happen. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to end the live stream. Thank you guys so much for participating. You're awesome. And we will get to part 2 here probably in a couple hours. So until next time, as always, get out and go shoot.